A solitary young man wiped clean his hands in a room. He had not initially been unaccompanied, as there was another man, a collector of the anomalous and occult, of ancient artifacts forgotten by time, but not by him. Most judged the passion as an unexplained occurrence, but perhaps his affinity stemmed from his own dotage, drawing parallels with the exotic relics, being ancient in his own time. A vast compilation adorned the walls, drawing from all walks of life and spanning countless generations, from an ebony Isihlangu rumored to have protected King Shaka Zulu himself during the Anglo-Zulu War, to a daisho consisting of a katana and a wakizashi, the blades inscribed with esoteric phrases, born during the Tokugawa shogunate, to a heavy bronze crook striped with obsidian and gold, once held by the pharaohs of ancient Egypt. Yes, the young man was once joined by an associate, as to be an acquaintance would bear false witness, but through a fit of unbridled, impulsive, hysterical passion was left companionless, and, through some unconscious penchant conjured by a state of shock, wiping his hand of the crimson with a handkerchief pulled from the collector's pocket. Finished, the young man lightly tucked away the kerchief and reclined in upholstery with such lavishness and elegance that it would not amaze him if it were once seated in the Palace of Versailles. And while his eyes lackadaisically scanned the trove of antiquities, he noticed an oddity. On the mantel of a fireplace, among the Aztec visages, lay a void. The congested organization of the assortment allowed for no space to be left unfilled, so the gap beside the Mesoamerican sacrificial masks piqued the interest of the young man. He rose from the seat and lethargically sauntered towards the mantel. After observing the faces arranged in a seemingly random order, no pattern to color, shape, or size, he knelt down to pluck up a strange metal instrument knocked from the mantel as collateral damage. The man turned the object, observing it to be an oil lamp, most likely of origins among the Mid-East, composed from some unfamiliar precious metal, as its luster had been dulled from not only the figurative sands of time, but also the literal sands of the Arabian desert. Though the feature that perturbed the man the most was the spatter of vermilion across the lamp. He frowned at this and instinctually dampened his finger, seeking to rub away at the blemish. But as the man scrubbed the lamp, a surge of white-hot electricity tore through the man's body, forcing his muscles to convulse and tighten spontaneously, followed by an eruption of blindingly blue light. The man stood shell-shocked for an eternity, awaiting his sight to return, and as the shapes began to emerge from the whiteness and dance in his vision, he spotted a silhouette before him. His immediate reaction was one of panic, as his mind was infected with the prospect of authorities having arrived so soon. However, as the figure cleared, his panic subsided into bewilderment, as the figure standing before him looked nothing akin to an authority. The being before the man appeared human, and was adorned in lush white robes reaching from its waist downward, suspended by a golden belt. But the being wore little else, aside from the gauntlets around its wrists and a pair of earrings, which matched the style of the belt. Its greased black hair slicked tightly back and fell into a ponytail atop its head, and a thin black line ran across the outline of its jaw around its mouth, and ended in a curl below its chin. It glowered at the young man with two piercing eyes like that of vultures, and its face showed little emotion, if not none at all. The two stood for ages, not saying a word, as the silence bored deep into the young man's head with a deafening roar, until the being spoke. "Greetings. I am the Jinn of the lamp. You, sir, have released me from my prison. Therefore I am bound to your will, and I shall grant you 3 wishes." The Jinn, as it is well known, are mischievous, clever creatures that will attempt to warp and corrupt your words to the furthest possible extent, often refusing to grant exactly what the wisher wanted, but rather an interpretation of their words. One must be wary when dealing with a Jinn, and choose their words wisely, as Jinn are sly devils that will find any available loophole. However, one must also remember to abide by the commonly accepted rules of the Jinn. A Jinn cannot interfere with a sentient being's free will without consent. A Jinn cannot prematurely amputate a soul from its body. A Jinn cannot bring back a soul that death has sailed across the river Styx. And a Jinn cannot grant more than 3 wishes before returning to their lamp. The man stared, mouth agape, still in awe of the spectacle, as the Jinn merely returned the stare. "Take your time," the Jinn spoke again. "It is always traumatic the first time. I will return shortly." The Jinn began to depart, before giving a quick glance to the collector, who laid on the floor with little more emotion than one would exhibit to a stain. Poor fellow. The sincerity of the Jinn's lament was questionable at best, and with a placid demeanor it exited the room. When the Jinn returned, it wore a more modern black suit accented with a red tie. It plucked a red rose from a vase painted with dragons dancing around each other with unrivaled swirling fluidity, the multitude of fractures indicating repair from numerous shatters, and containing some long-forgotten power only remembered in the tombs of the Ming dynasty. The Jinn neatly placed the rose in its breast pocket, delicately adjusting it to perfection. "You are a Jinn," spoke the young man cautiously. The Jinn solemnly nodded in confirmation. "And you are to grant me 3 wishes." The Jinn nodded once more. "You'll have to forgive me, sir, but I do not patronize the belief of the supernatural. You'll find me hard-pressed to believe that a creature could possibly not only lie dormant in a lamp for ages, awaiting its release, but could also possibly have the influence or audacity to grant wishes. Such a thing would defy reason, would defy the order." The Jinn sighed and gestured towards the collector. "And yet it seems you have no qualms with the defiance of order." "Do not attempt to dissuade my attention," the young man shrieked in impassioned rage. "You are but a charlatan and a weaver of deception." "I can assure you that I am no mountebank. My talents are authentic. Perhaps you would like to utilize a wish as a testament to my abilities." As he pondered the thought, a sneer crept its way across the young man's face. "Fine. Then we shall see your cheap tricks for their worth. Jinn," he announced confidently, "I wish for a carafe of the most exquisite bourbon known in all the earth and all the heavens." The Jinn spoke with an elegance which could harmonize with angels, as its arms weaved with graceful dignity. "As you say, so it shall be." The Jinn held flat its palm, and an unmarked vial materialized from the air into its awaiting hand, filling with an auburn substance. "Would you like a glass as well?" inquired the Jinn. "No, I do not drink. I must say that your illusion is impressive, yet I am still hesitant to indulge in this fantasy, as your deceptions have no effect on me. Once more, I am no magician. However, I cannot force your faith. If your wits find their way back from this delusion, you know my invocation." With this, the Jinn evaporated into a fine mist which dissipated throughout the room. The young man stood contemptuously. His haughty demeanor clouded his mind with thoughts of his acute sight, which had torn through the frauds of the Jinn. The man snatched the bourbon from where it now lay on the floor, claiming it as if some reward. However, he released the bottle almost instantaneously, unintentionally shattering it, as a set of heavy knocks reverberated throughout the house, and unintelligible voices cried out as if from miles away. Though the man had no need to decipher the voices, as his intuition was enough to deduce their intention. He had prepared for this moment, but the Jinn had allowed his mind to wander, leaving him vulnerable. His frenzied eyes darted across the room, hundreds of nightmares dancing through his head as he cursed the Djinn for lowering his guard. The Djinn! He raced to the lamp before halting. He admitted the Djinn was nothing more than a hustler. Then, why would he find himself at its mercy? Surely he could not revise his word now. Surely he was beyond submission. As he contemplated alternatives, hubris ultimately fell to preservation as another set of knocks forced its way into the man's ears. While reaching for the lamp, he once again halted, not out of arrogance this time, but of reflexive impulse, desiring to avoid the surge of plasma that had once pulsed through him. He shook off the notion and fiercely rubbed the lamp. Neither the shock nor the light came this time, but instead a fine fog billowed out of the lamp, wafting into the figure of the Djinn. The Djinn emerged from the mist with the same somber expression. "You summoned, sir?" The young man hesitated again, his face flushing with reluctant capitulation as he swallowed his pride. "Get me out of here!" screamed the man. "Is that your wish, sir?" The knocks and hollers at the door began to increase in volume and frequency. "Yes, now do it!" "I need it to be phrased correctly for me to grant your wish." The man began sweating profusely as the sound of the door breaking from its hinges resounded throughout the house. "Djinn, I wish to go home." The Djinn calmly grabbed its lamp before offering it to the man. "Hold on to this," it instructed before moving its arms in its signature hypnotizing pattern. "As you say, so it shall be." Without so much as a blink, the young man found himself returned to the familiar setting of his own bedroom. As if the prior events had been but a hallucination, the young man gazed around him, before down to the lamp in his hands, and up to the Djinn before him. He then threw the lamp on his nightstand, before doing the same to himself onto his bed, and commanding the Djinn back into its confinement. Though, throughout the night, an unnatural thought plagued the young man's mind. The exact nature of the thought was uncertain, as each and every time the man focused on it, it would vanish into the aether. If this thought had not kept the man from reaching the rapture of slumber, then it would be absurd that he would otherwise be able to make note of a faint breathing. Masked first by his own breath, he was soon able to isolate and distinguish a second breath. At first notice, he leapt from his sheets and set as many lights as possible to find the intruder. However, the true disturbance came when he found no other but himself, and yet the breathing continued. Could this be the delusion of a fevered mind? As the man listened to the cadence, the breath became clear, and the man recognized the rugged gurgle of a breath. "No, this cannot be," the man cried. "Surely this cannot be heard. Surely this is a deception of a heavy conscience. Surely some water will clear my head." The man rushed to his sink and doused his face, but when he looked up, the bloodless eyes gazing back at him were not his own. Though not of its rightful owner, the visage in the glass was familiar. Last seen through vision blurred with exasperated ecstasy, the same face which the young man had passionately drained of vitality as he listened to those rugged, congested breaths. The young man screeched in terror, shattering the reflection. "Begone from my house, demon! Show your villainous countenance no more! May you rot with the Titans!" Retreating into his halls in a blind panic, he soon froze, as his sight was again plagued by the visage of an anemic form, jutting from behind a door. As the door creaked open, the figure revealed itself in full. Its pallid skin clung tightly to its gaunt form, as its spindly legs twisted in unnatural directions in clothes once stained a deep cardinal, now painted a sickly copper, in a perverse advance towards the man. The man made a mad dash for his bedroom in hopes of using his third wish to rid himself of this vile beast, but when he glanced back, the monster seemed to have matched his speed, if not surpassed it. Reaching the room, the man dove for the Djinn's lamp, cracking his head against the nightstand in the process. Lying prone, dazed and battered, the man saw through concussed vision the monster snake into the room with its winding legs, and he once more furiously wiped away at the lamp. The Djinn appeared through the thick fog, and before it could speak, the man interrupted. "Djinn, I wish for this horrid beast to be gone!" But the Djinn, eyes seeming to glance over the monster without notice, replied, "Sir, I see no beast." The man's heart stopped. The Djinn could not even see the advancing abomination. "What manner of creature are you?" shrieked the man. "What shadow inhabits that body? What specter has come to claim my life? Are you an agent of the devil, or are you but an apparition come for retribution? A phantom conjured by a guilty mind which haunts the recesses of my psyche? Take your reprisal elsewhere, revenant! You shall not haunt this mind! Djinn, I wish for a clear mind!" And had it not been for the previously marble-engraved face of the Djinn, the man would not have noticed the small fold at the corner of the Djinn's mouth. As you say, so it shall be. It is rumored that the young man was found staring, unblinking, into the aether. His heart still pumping, his lungs inflating, his body completely healthy with one exception. His brain showed no activity. His eyes gazed mindlessly for miles on end as the man sat, alive yet not conscious, a soul trapped, unable to affect its surroundings, stuck in a prison, as inanimate as the oil lamp in the man's hand.